B, VDOT, GRTC, and CDOT annual update, Ms. Torres, Mr. Totten, and Ms. Walker.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board, and the what do you call it? Excellence November. So I just want to say thank you. We're doing our annual transportation update. VDOT representation is here. We'll be following Adrian, who is representing GRTC and is going to provide a transit update. So I just wanted to introduce them and thank them for being here. So you can go ahead.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah.
Just press this button here.
Press the button.
Good afternoon, members of the board and Mr. Casey. Happy to be here. I'm just going to give you guys a very brief update, just updates from actually last year on what we've done in Chesterfield County. I'll give you a little overview of just GRTC and what's happening in terms of ridership, and then get on specific to Chesterfield County. All right. We serve 7 counties within the Richmond region as of today, and that means specifically with services. So when we have a mixture of different modes, we have bus rapid transit, which is the main spine that runs down the city of Richmond and has ends both in Henrico County, and that's on the map in green. We have microtransit, which we have our Cloverdale zone, which we'll get into later within Chesterfield County. We also have our Powhatan zone that touches Chesterfield County, a total of 6 zones today. 5 of them are part of our pilot. And then we have our fixed route service, as well as our paratransit service and express service. We have a total of 161 fixed route vehicles, and we are excited to say we have 4 60-foot vehicles that are new as of this year. And we have 88 paratransit vehicles and 12 of our microtransit link vehicles. We had, in fiscal year 25, a total of 12 million ridership, as we say, but those are unlinked passenger trips, so it could be the same person riding multiple times. That is an increase of about, pre-COVID, we had about 8.5 million. So that is a significant increase that we've seen with expansion into the counties, as well as we've been zero fare since 2020, so people are out there riding GRTC. We have roughly about $94 million base operating budget and a $43 million capital budget. This just kind of gives you a different view of just our services and the spans, all the ones I just went over. 2 that I'm going to add on here, we have an agency that is part of GRTC called Ride Finders. And carpools and van pools, they work with employers to set those up, or they meet at Park and Rise, and that's another one that we offer. And then we have a kind of a special service, an on-demand service that primarily serves the airport. So anywhere within our network, if you need to get to the airport between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., and 11 p.m. and 2 p.m., this is a voucher that is offered because a lot of vendors at the airport, they start their shift at 4 a.m. and our service doesn't really start until 5, and they had a big need to be able to get people to the airport. All right. Our mission: connect people to opportunities, and then our vision is to ultimately the whole vibrant Richmond region, and we are that transportation network that just connects us. So this is our board, and I do see an edit on here, so I apologize, but there's shareholders are Richmond, Chesterfield County, and the last one is to be Henrico as members. So we have 3 board members from each of the jurisdictions. Some of you are sitting right here who are on our board. All right, so the Chesterfield County service. So this highlights service that we may have specifically organized in coordination with Chesterfield County, or service in the city of Richmond that has to make connections to Chesterfield County, so still serves the residents. So we have our 1A, which is a number just on there, but that is the route that goes in Midlothian Turnpike and serves Chesterfield Town Center, as well as serves Walmart Way. That went in January 2024. So we are almost hitting 2 years of service with that line. It's gone by fast. And it's going really well, and I'll get into the numbers next. We have our routes 2A and 2B that also come from the city but go into Chesterfield County. and around Chippenham Square. And then we have our 3B and 3C. For those who may have been familiar, it started as our brand-new route that happened to open March 16th, 2020. But that route serves the Route 1 corridor and ends at Bright Point. It has a different name depending on if it's the weekend or the evening, but primarily the 3B. We have 2 express routes that serve Chesterfield County. We have the 64, which starts in Stony Point for city, but it does go and serve Bon Air Baptist Church. So a big park and ride for Chesterfield County. And then we have the 82 express route as well that goes to Commonwealth 20, and then the 2 zones that I mentioned as link. So you probably can't see this very well, but I'm going to just highlight a few things. So the ones in green are the ones that I just went over for Chesterfield County. But that 1A I mentioned, you can see that people are using that service. It's about 180,000 riders, and that's for a quarter. And that is increasing from the year before for the quarter. And that is a route that goes in the city of Richmond as well, but about 20% of that ridership is represented specifically at the stops in Chesterfield, but that's their destination. So the origin still benefiting both directions along the whole line. And then we have the 2B that I mentioned as well, good about 100,000 riders per quarter. And then 3B and 3C serve that Route 1 corridor. The Route 1A altogether, I think, is our 3rd most used route, behind the BRT, of course, being at the top. On here as well, we have the express routes, the 82 in terms of the express routes, 2nd most used express routes. People are commuting from Chesterfield County into the city of Richmond, our top one being the one route that is in Henrico County. And Chesterfield ridership specifically, so those are all those routes together showing just the growth. And I mean, like I mentioned, you can see a big jump in that 2024 year where that 1A went in, and then growth from where we kind of started off slow with that 3B and the Route 1, but that's also picked up. So ridership has increased overall. And then this is just similar trend as far as growth for our overall system. But with expansion, I mentioned of just the zero fare, we really have seen just a lot of increase in ridership in the system. So quick highlight on Link. So the Cloverdale, we're working on that. These are pilots, so I want to go ahead and emphasize that we are trying to figure out what is that right model. And these are 2 of our zones that actually happen to be within your within your county that we really are focusing on what's that route model. So you can see October. That red being kind of our goal within that zone has increased. Not on here, but we've had discussions. Schneider actually had brought it up to me at a TPO meeting of expanding the zone because we're hitting all the activity centers, but people don't live in the activity centers. So we're looking at expanding it at least on the north side to be able to grab some of those neighborhoods so people can get a little bit more use of getting to the activity centers and back versus you're not going to go from one destination to the other if you're already within the zone. So we're looking at making that change. And then Powhatan, we already made a change where they were similarly just the activity centers. That definitely did not work for that rural zone. So it is now expanded to all of the county, but we realized that they need to get to Chesterfield. So they already could go to Westchester Commons, but now they can go to the town center, as well as they can go to Johnson Willis. So I call them pocket zones. So people are using it. It was showing about 6 people, and so we're at 12 and 14. Still have room for growth, and we have another change. We're looking at kind of a model for this really is truly a rural zone. So we're looking at doing more of a 24-hour. You could call in advance to schedule your trip, but still do the on-demand. So an added feature that will help them with those trips. And then paratransit specific to Chesterfield County. So this is the whole system. People use our paratransit within 3/4 of a mile of our fixed route, which is the dark purple. That is required federally. And then you have the greater lighter gray, which is all of Henrico County. So people can take a ride from, let's say, all the way on that bottom purple, all the way to Short Pump today. So that's called our Care and Care Plus trips. And then Care on Demand is we use an on-demand service called UServe, where the individual actually pays $6 up to the first 7 miles, and then they pay actually additional anything beyond the 7 miles. And this is the Chesterfield specific use, so people in Chesterfield are using our Care or Care Plus service. You can just see increase from September and through October, and that just as expansion happened, it's required for us to provide that. I know you guys also have Access Chesterfield, so both are options. And then brief updates on just a couple projects within Chesterfield County. North-South BRT, the primarily piece of this that right now is going from Azalea up there, neighborhood Walmart up in Henrico County on Brook Road. The route would go all the way down through the city of Richmond, and then the end of the line is projected to turn around by the Kroger at Stonebridge. We are looking at this being a phased approach, so knowing we just put in that 1A, looking how it does first. So we call that the third version of our first phase. As we're looking at funding. So the numbers you see up here are for that whole line, but we are looking at implementing it in a phased approach. So $360 million for all 12.6 miles, and the operating costs would be primarily that southern portion, because today that is 30-minute frequency, and converting that over to basically 10 minutes is tripling the cost. So that's the largest piece of the associated cost with that project. We're in early design, so looking to go towards full engineering, hopefully the next fiscal year. We're applying for funds and then starting to apply for funds for construction. It's a very, very big project. And then shelters. This has been something we've been coordinating since the Route 1 corridor went in, now Midlothian Turnpike, but this is in progress, installation of a shelter, but so far to date, we've put in 10 benches, 5 shelters. We've completed in this particular calendar year, 3 shelters. One is going through kind of the approval process for a shelter to go in. I know we're putting one more bench in as well, just talked to Barb, in Midlothian. So this shows where they're dispersed. Those are the 2 routes that I just mentioned on the map. So a lot of them on the Route 1 corridor so far. And this just shows full projection, not Chesterfield specific. Our goal is, at least by 2027, to get 50% of our bus stops to have a bench or shelter. And we have funding secured for that to happen. And we have took us a little while to get it going with all of the permits and getting the funds, the engineering, but we are now making advancements, and our goal is actually 75%. So we'll apply for additional funding for additional shelters to get that last 25% in the future fiscal years. So we're also doing, related to that, a pilot for lighting for improvements. And then the counties, Chesterfield, Henrico, see that as even more of a need. So we've done a quick survey using a technology that drives by and grabs pictures of all our bus stops to see what needs lights. And this shows kind of the area where we want to do the pilot of them. So working either with solar lights, or we've had conversations with Dominion and putting together kind of a task force with the jurisdictions to see what makes sense for kind of that core pilot, hopefully next fiscal year. So lights, safety. And that is I believe my last slide, if you guys have any questions.
Board members, any questions, comments?
So with the Cloverdale, I recently spoke with the Brander Mill Retired Men's Club, and they were very excited about the opportunity of possibly expanding into Brander Mill some, because they were just like, really? They'll come and pick you up at the door? So I thank you so much for working on that, because I really think that that's going to help. There's a lot of older folks that are living in the Brander Mill Wood Lake area and that area that I think would really benefit from it. So, yeah, thank you so much for all you do.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I think it was the microtransit study started after the CVTA was created. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. And I think it's important for people to understand that because of the creation of the CVTA, working to fund GRTC, it's really helped for the GRTC to expand services to the community. Am I framing that right?
The CVTA specifically, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
Absolutely.
mean, you all do all the work, but
The
but the
funding
funding-
has assisted, yes.
The funding is allowed, for instance, when the microtransit studies were done, and it's not just for Chesterfield, but there are other parts, Ashland, Hanover, Powhatan, others, that are now benefiting from the microtransit. And so we've seen many more options for the community to get transported around because of the partnership between the CVTA and GRTC.
Yeah, I would definitely say the CVTA was a catalyst for the conversations of service within the rules, and a fixed route bus was not going to work. So that led to the microtransit study to kind of fit a mode that would work for areas that were in a fixed route bus. So, yes.
Thank you. Evan, looks great.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. I think we have VDOT next.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Casey. Glad to be here. Dale Totten, District Engineer for VDOT's Richmond District. Doing my best to fill in for Rebecca Worley, our Chesterfield resident engineer who would normally be here, but she is on parental leave, as the saying goes, and we wish her all the best. I need to at least acknowledge, before we get going, a couple of staff members here. Scott Smizik is here with Heather Staten from our Central Office Environmental Division, working on one element of the two elements we're going to present today, as well as I have Mark Riblett from the Richmond District. I'll also note that he's a former Chesterfield County Transportation employee of 15 years. So he and I were both having some flashbacks coming into the room here. And Justin Pachin is here. He's our acting residency administrator from our Chesterfield residency and works with you and your teams and your citizens on a daily basis. So very glad to be here today. I view today as a couple of good news stories to provide some updates on. We are going to provide just updates on two elements related to the same roadway. One is an update on the environmental work going on for what the county affectionately refers to Phase 2 of the Powhite Parkway extension. That's the environmental work that's underway. And then probably we'll save the best news for last and cover the Powhite Parkway toll decommissioning, and to close it out, as the saying goes, to end on a high note. But I will turn the floor over to Scott, who's been involved with this from day one, and allow him to walk you through his presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Today's presentation is in some ways a preview for the presentation VDOT will be giving the Commonwealth Transportation Board, or CTB, at their December meeting. The December meeting will be the fourth presentation to the board on this project. We kind of sequence those to introduce the board to the project, discuss the purpose and need, which we'll get into in a few moments, review the range of alternatives, and in December we will go with what we refer to as our recommended preferred alternative to seek their action per the state code referenced on the slide, for them to take action in January to identify the preferred alternative. Our study area for the environmental impact statement, or EIS, is generally outlined in the oval on this slide. We are aware of the Phase 1 project that's going on, that's depicted on this figure, as well as the economic development projects in areas such as Upper Magnolia Green, which is also on this figure. That all kind of informs the EIS study. Robust public involvement effort to date. As we kicked off the EIS work in 2024, we had a virtual study introduction where citizens were notified of the opportunity through advertisements, but could come online at their convenience to read material and provide their comments on the scope of the study. We came back to the public again in October of 2024 with a in-person meeting and a 30-day comment period to help inform the range of alternatives that were considered in the EIS. This summer, Federal Highway issued their Notice of Intent, or NOI, which is the formal initiation of the EIS process. And then later this month, we'll start a comment period to inform the board's action, which will include a location public hearing in December. Our EIS process also includes continued coordination with federal and state agencies who are either involved in the EIS or will have some decision to make further on down the line in project development. That includes the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and Virginia Department of Environmental Quality. We meet with them monthly to walk through all the different steps I outlined before that we talked to our board with. They have had influence and input on the level of NEPA document and the range of alternatives and the consideration of the other projects that I mentioned before and how they should be addressed in this process. So I used the term purpose and need before. That is a term that informs the National Environmental Policy Act, which is why we're doing all of this. The purpose and need sets the goals for the study and serves as the primary criteria in the alternative screening process. So the alternatives that advance through the study must relieve congestion on existing roadways and intersections and must improve regional connectivity and accessibility between Hall Street Road and Woolridge Road. There are a total of 4 alternatives that are under consideration. The first is the no-build alternative, which is required for the National Environmental Policy Act. We then have alternative 1A, which is depicted on this slide. That is a new 4-lane roadway from Hull Street Road to Woolridge Road, which includes the reconstruction of a planned 2-lane access road along that same corridor. Alternative 1B has some variation at the northern end, as you can see, but otherwise mimics alternative 1A. And then finally, alternative 4 includes adding an additional lane in each direction along Hull Street Road. The environmental review process we're going through, the agencies I mentioned before, their regulations require them to look at some type of alternative that is simply an improve existing. They have to have something that isn't just all on new alignment. So this alternative serves that purpose of giving the other agencies an opportunity to see what something like that might look like. It does not mean it meets the purpose and need or the goals of the study, but provides the necessary comparison for other agencies. So our intent with the December CTB meeting is to recommend alternative 1A as the preferred alternative and seek the board action on that. This slide again summarizes what that alternative consists of. A lot of information on this slide, but it is a summary of the impact and cost analyses done to date to inform the environmental impact statement. I won't jump through all of these numbers with you, but I will point out some important factors. The total acreage of the different alternatives. Alternative 1A has the smallest footprint, which yields less impact to private properties and a lower cost with relatively equal wetland and stream impacts. That will, of course, be important in getting permits down the line, so we do keep track of that. So moving forward, as I mentioned before, we will hold a location public hearing to inform the board's action. That hearing is set for December 9th. We would seek the board's decision in January, and if all those items line up, we would see an EIS release for public availability late 2026 with a public hearing and a federal highway NEPA decision anticipated for mid-2027. This concludes my part of the presentation.
Sorry, it's okay. Mr. Chair, we can.
And just for disclosure, tonight's agenda on the consent has a resolution in support of 1A. And again, that's just part of our role in the process. So just for transparency's sake, there is an agenda item tonight for 1A.
Mr. Chair, we'll be glad to take any questions before I move on to the second part.
Any questions at this point?
You said you're making a presentation to CTB in December. Where's it? What location is that made at and what date?
December 9th,
Where?
VDOT Central Office.
Okay. All right.
I believe that'll be work session on the 9th, and then it'll be considered for adoption at the January after the public hearing, if I got that right.
Okay.
But that's at the VDOT Central Office, downtown Richmond on Broad Street.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the second item to cover, the Powhite Parkway tolling decommissioning. Little background for those who might be interested. Boy, that's a lot of words on that slide, even from here. So the existing Powhite Parkway constructed in 3 different segments, beginning at the Chippenham Parkway and working our way south and west, the original 9.1 miles to Route 288, the additional extension beyond 288 to where it ends right now, the limited access for the Powhite Parkway actually ends just east of the Brandon Mill Parkway intersection. The 3rd segment was connecting the Powhite to the 360 interchange. Those of you guys who are here, it's before my time in Virginia. Construction began in 1986, was completed in 88, and opened to traffic in September of 88. You may remember this project had lots of funding sources, a lot of cooperation between the county and the Commonwealth to get the roadway built. The bottom item there is really what we're here to talk about. The current projection of the tolls through December of this year, or excuse me, through December of 2026, boy, I got to get that right, 2026, is anticipated to cover the cost of the remaining debt service, as well as the cost to decommission the toll facility. That removes the structures, improves the pavement, or changes the pavement, removes existing excess pavement. So we're kind of threading the needle. I need to note that the tolls that have been paid on this facility since its existence have all gone to debt service. They have not paid for maintenance. Maintenance paid for out of our regular, ordinary, what we would call our Program 604 maintenance budget. So that was, I believe, a commitment, again, before my time, that the tolls would go to debt service. That commitment has remained. If I am not mistaken, the tolls have stayed the same value on this segment through its entire existence, if I am remembering correctly. So we're at the place where we are going to be at December of 2026, where the debt service will be paid down and we will have enough funding to decommission the facility. So that's really what we're here to talk about today. Okay, so as part of this effort to decommission, we are working through a project, and I think it was important to share our vision of how we saw this project come into fruition, and that's really dealing with the decommissioning portion. So we've already begun the survey to develop engineering plans. We're about 10% complete at this point. We have some additional work underway that will go through February. We expect to work our way through 30 and 90%, and really be ready to advertise the project by October of 2026. So that's a little bit less than a year from now. You may be asking how we can move so quickly. A couple things will aid us to this. There's, if you think about the facility, it's a limited access facility. There's not right-of-way that has to be acquired. There aren't utilities that have to be moved. We're actually going to be shrinking, if you will, the existing pavement there. So it's a really, what we would characterize as a very straightforward project. Assuming we get good bids in the bid letting next fall, we would see this being a one-season project during the year of 2027. I do want to note that the thought and the approach we're taking is that assuming, again, we get good bids, we would be decommissioning or no longer taking tolls in December of 2026. So that means there's going to be a bit of a transition period for how the roadway looks and operates now to what it will look and operate at the end of the project. We'll have to do some interim improvements, pavement markings, maybe a little bit of pavement work. Haven't gotten all those details down. The idea is to get to where as soon as we can remove the tolls, we can, and then folks will still be able to use that roadway. It'll remain in service as a non-toll facility, or toll-free facility at that point. So that's sort of the schedule. My L&D engineer, Scott Chapman, always believes every time I meet with him, he starts off by saying, bottom line up front. So I figured for you guys, time is probably the most important thing, so that's why we're looking at that slide first, or close to the front. A couple of sort of details to think about just regarding some of the construction things. At the main toll plaza, that's west of the Courthouse Road interchange, we'll rearrange the existing configuration to match the overall typical section of the roadway. So think of the typical section as the 4 lanes that folks use when you're not at the toll facility. The goal is to have, once those toll facilities are removed, it will look, act, and feel like a 4-lane roadway. It won't look, act, and feel like a 4-lane roadway that used to have a toll facility. You'll see some modifications to the acceleration and deceleration ramps. They have to meet standard. If you were to think about that toll plaza, it's kind of in a valley. One of the things that will have to be done is we actually have to be able to move at highway speeds, we'll have to kind of eliminate the dip in the bottom, right where the toll booths are. So there's a little bit of corrective work that needs to be done with the pavements. The big focal point for us is that one of the big things we'll be undertaking is to really remove pavement. If you, next time you're through and look at these toll plazas, you'll see there's an expanse of pavement that's there that honestly will no longer be needed. So we're going to do our best to minimize the amount of pavement that's retained to really have a good 4-lane roadway, good shoulders to serve those folks that drive it, and really not have a bunch of extra pavement out there that costs money to maintain. It should help us with things like impervious area, perhaps, to a certain degree, and should be a better situation on it. The last bullet's kind of an important one. Of the other things that will be happening currently, our plan is to relocate our what we call our interstate maintenance office. It's a kind of an equivalent of the residency. That's our interstate maintenance office operates out of the Atlee area right now, just up in just north of 295 off of Route 1. They serve the entire Richmond district, all 14 counties, all the limited access facilities. That's I-85, 295, 95, 64, Powhite, Chippenham, 288. And by us relocating them from Atlee to this location, we'll actually put them in a much more central location to provide better service across the length of the district. Those folks manage about a little over 2,000 lane miles across the district. So if you're more of a graphical person, so this is sort of an overhead shot. I apologize if the colors might be a little glaring. So if you think of this, red and orange is kind of your existing pavement. Green is kind of an area where you may have paved shoulder. Blue is areas where we'll be removing pavement. So I think this is, again, west of Courthouse. You get kind of a flavor of we'll be taking out substantial amounts of pavement to really improve the feel and the operation of the roadway. I think it will function a lot better once that goes through. Believe me, we struggled on the right way to show that. Just full disclosure, go ahead.
It looks like you should have on those 3D glasses that we used to.
Yes, it does. And realize part of it is it's blown up. So moving to the Courthouse Road Toll Plaza. These are more of the off-ramps and connecting to and from. We're going to utilize as much of the existing configuration, removing excess pavement. Again, modifying the acceleration and deceleration lanes where needed. And remember, at these locations, the acceleration and deceleration lanes are separated by an existing median barrier. They're going to remain separated. We're going to keep that in place. We also have a vertical geometry connection that we need to deal with. And again, we're going to remove that excess pavement. This will get redundant very quickly. Put on your 3D glasses, you can see, again, there's your toll booth plazas. You can see changes in orange to the on and off ramps, and the blue removing the excess pavements and buildings, et cetera, from this situation. I will tell a little bit on Mark Riblett. Mark shared with me that his first assignment as a Chesterfield County Transportation employee back in the early 80s was to attend a public hearing for the Powhite Parkway, where he had to work with citizens to talk about how much of their rear yards they might potentially be using. And here we are some years later talking about removing tolls. Midlothian Toll Plaza, similar. Again, removing excess pavement, acceleration, deceleration lanes modifying. We are going to keep that barrier separated. That's just the right thing to do. Again, we have the Midlothian Toll Plaza is the one, if you think about the dip, if you leave, you're kind of going uphill and it flattens out going through the toll plaza. And then there's a vertical that if we were to leave it there without modifying it, we might have a Dukes of Hazzard situation. So we're going to take care of that. And then again, remove and obscure. So again, here's just an overall view. The blue, again, is what's going away, and the orange and orangish color is sort of the improvements within the existing. So that's sort of the summation. So the key takeaways, December of next year is our target. Revenue projections look like that's sort of the nexus where we have enough revenues to pay off the debt service and have enough to fund the project. We are targeting an October advertisement for the construction package. When we met with the county staff last week, I believe one of the things we talked through was, if we didn't get great bids for some reason, right now our bid response is pretty good. We're getting very favorable responses. But if we didn't for some reason, we would then just look and say, what does that mean from a revenue collection? And it might mean we'd have to continue revenue collection for a short period of time, perhaps to be able to just sort of cover that cost. But we're going to allow the market to drive that decision. We'll continue to partner with the county as we need to. But to me, it's a really good story about long ago transportation commitments finally coming to fruition. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll close my remarks and be glad to take any questions.
Board members, any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair. So to simplify, in December 26, the toll goes away, and in 27, you normalize the road so it looks like the rest.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
Yeah.
Nice slides, though.
Mr. Chair. Just, I want to thank Mr. Todd. And also, one of the things we had talked about is, toll collectors, that, we need to just be mindful of them. And we worked with them in the past and we'll work with them in the future. If there's transition jobs they can have, but having them stay on those jobs till the end is important to the functionality of the toll system. But we're here to help and assist any worker transition for openings we may have. And I know VDOT's a large entity too, and I know that's important, but I did want to express that you had expressed an interest in those employees, and so have we.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Dr. Casey. Yeah, we are already engaged with the employees. We're trying to be as transparent as possible, and we do have several employees that are eligible to retire, and that's be the approach they take. But our goal is to, at the end, to find a home for those that want a home. And certainly there's opportunities in the marketplace now, whether that's for us or localities. And but there's an active dialogue with them. That's something that we value those employees. They're state employed. Listen to you guys talk about your environment here. We share a lot of those same values with our employees. So it's important to land softly with those impacts. So, and Mr. Carroll, you're right. I could have done 2 slides and got you guys 10 minutes back.
Yours is so perfect and technical. It was beautiful.
And then, I'm sorry, my last comment, though, too, is it goes without saying the removal of these toll booths is purposeful in also talking about the Powhite extension, because there has been discussions where people talk about, well, are you going to toll all the way to Hull Street? Could that help finance part of the infrastructure? Yes. Does it divert people off of the roads, which is not what we want? The answer is also yes. So by the physical removal of this and the cost to remove it, it does go without saying that Chesterfield County will not have any toll booths within the entire county once these are removed.
So I appreciate you. I'm on the RMTA board, and I appreciate the fact that we had to do the similar thing because we're working towards the open tolling, and so we've been having to transfer a lot of people, and there were a lot of folks that were ready to retire, and so, but finding positions for people that wanted them is so important, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And I'll just pick up on what Jessica is saying. Don't forget about Brightpoint, and we might be able to do some training there, and do career counseling there, so we can figure that out from there too.
I should have said it's about 16 or 18 total employees that are impacted, somewhere in that general neighborhood. So, yeah.
All right, well, thank you.